The trial was not fair, but fairness had died long before Lady Vera stood in chains. She sat tall even now. Her silver eyes burned with silent fire, her dark hair tied back in the style of Zalari nobility. Around her neck glowed the collar, a device that silenced her powers, sealed her form, and marked her as sentenced. Across the cold metal chamber, the High Arbiter read the final decree. Convicted of crimes against neutral colonies, acts of war without sanction, and misuse of celestial authority. Vera did not flinch. She knew what they would say. She had seen this end written in the stars the moment they arrested her. Sentence: 10 cycles of exile among the humans bound by law and biology. You will live as one of them, speak as one of them, and you will be married to one of them. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Married, that was not part of the rumors. The Arbiter turned to the screen behind him. A human appeared on it, rough-faced, scarred along his jawline, eyes tired but sharp. He wore old military fatigues. "This is your mate," the Arbiter said. Jonas Rook. No status, no wealth, no power. A fitting match for one who has lost. All three. Laughter rose from the crowd. Some spat at her feet as she was led away. Others whispered curses. A joke. That's all this was. A punishment dressed in mockery. They were stripping her of everything, her name, her form, her people. And then, to humiliate her further, they gave her a human husband like he was a leash. They changed her slowly. First came the injections, painful, burning things that twisted her cells into something soft, fragile. Then the surgeries, small and precise. They removed the biolights from her skin, dulled her senses, locked away her psychic reach. When it was done, she looked human. Pale skin, brown eyes, hair cut short. She hated the reflection. Then came the ceremony. It was not a wedding. It was a branding. She stood under a gray sky in a city that smelled of oil and rain. Jonas Rook stood beside her, hands in his pockets, face unreadable. No vows were exchanged, no rings given, just a scan, a signature, and a new name stamped into her. Records. Jonas barely looked at her, and when it was over, he simply said, "Let's go." He led her to a small apartment above a broken-down garage. The smell of grease and dust filled the air. There was no view, only a window that overlooked a rusted car half torn apart. This was her prison now. She refused to speak to him at first, refused to eat, refused to sleep. But pain found her anyway. By the third night, her body began to fail. The change had been too fast, too deep. She collapsed in the hallway, gasping, her lungs struggling to pull in Earth's heavy air. Strong hands caught her, warmth pressed against her. Jonas. His arms held her up, his voice low and calm. Breathe, slowly, in and out. She couldn't understand why he helped her, why he didn't just leave her there. He carried her to the couch, wrapped a blanket around her shaking frame, and sat nearby, close enough to help, far enough to give space. She stared at him. "Why?" she finally asked, voice dry and hoarse. He looked at her, confused. "Why are you helping me?" He shrugged. "You're sick. Doesn't matter who you are." She wanted to hate him for that, for being kind when he should have been cruel, for seeing her not as a monster or a prisoner, but as someone worth saving. But instead she felt something else. His hand brushed hers when he handed her water. A spark, not physical. Something deeper, something ancient. Her heart skipped. Not from fear, from something she could not name. Later that night she dreamed. She saw herself standing among the stars, surrounded by beings made of light. They reached for her, called her name. Not the name the court gave her, but her true name. And in the center of it all, a human stood beside her. Jonas. He smiled. She woke up gasping. Her chest hurt. Not from pain, from longing. She touched her hand, the place where he had held it. Something inside her had shifted. She did not know what it meant, only that it had never happened before, and that scared her more than anything the court could do. Vera had once walked among stars in her true form, spoken in thoughts that spanned light years and seen entire planets bloom and die. Now she lived in a tiny apartment above a garage, trapped inside soft skin and fragile bones. She hated it. She hated how loud everything was, the hum of lights, the crash of rain, the way smells stuck to her like fog. Her senses, once sharp enough to read minds, were now dulled to uselessness, and worst of all, she could no longer feel the flow, the energy that connected all Zalari to each other and the universe itself. She was blind, deaf, trapped. Jonas watched her struggle but didn't push. He gave her space, food, and time. Sometimes he spoke, asking simple questions. Did you sleep? Want some tea? But most days, she ignored him. She told herself she would survive this. 10 years wasn't forever. She would endure. But endurance came with cracks. One morning, she woke up dizzy and weak. Her body felt heavier than usual. She tried to stand but fell back onto the bed. Her stomach twisted. Sweat clung to her skin. She had never been sick before. A knock came at the door. Hey, Jonas said from the hallway. You okay? She didn't answer. He opened the door slowly, not wanting to scare her. When he saw her face, pale, shaking, he stepped in without hesitation. You're burning up, he muttered, placing a hand on her forehead. His touch sent a strange pulse through her body, not pain, something else. Warmth. Calm. It faded quickly, but it was enough to shock her. I don't need your help, she snapped, pulling away. He didn't look offended, just tired. You're not Zalari anymore, he said. At least not physically. Your body's still adjusting. You'll get sick a lot. She glared at him. And how do you know that? He hesitated, then said, because I've seen others go through it. That surprised her. What do you mean? He sat on the edge of the bed, hands resting on his knees. There have been others like you. Not many. Some didn't survive the change. Some lost their minds. A few just disappeared. She studied his face. He wasn't lying. You knew what this would be like, she whispered. And yet you agreed to this? He looked at her then, not with pity, not with fear, but something close to understanding. I didn't agree, he said. I was chosen. The word hit her like a stone. Chosen. Not random. Not luck. She had thought this marriage was punishment. For her alone. Now she wasn't so sure. Days passed. Jonas kept to his routine. He worked at the garage below, fixing old machines, talking to humans who laughed too loudly and smelled too much. He came home late, sometimes tired, sometimes quiet, but always he checked on her, sometimes with a sandwich, sometimes with silence. Once he brought her a small plant. For the window, he said, handing it to her. She took it without a word. She didn't ask why he did these things, why he stayed, why he didn't treat her like the monster they said she was. She planted the green thing in an old cup and placed it by the window. It grew slowly, like her. One night, the dreams returned. She stood among the stars again. The beings of light surrounded her, whispering in voices she almost remembered. And again, Jonas was there. Only this time he reached for her. She woke up gasping. Her heart pounded. She touched her chest, trying to calm herself. Then she heard it. Soft knock. Vera? Jonas called gently. You okay? She didn't answer. But she didn't tell him to go away either. After a long pause, he opened the door just enough to peek in. You were crying out in your sleep, he said. She hadn't noticed. I'm fine, she lied. He nodded like he believed her. Then turned to leave. But before he could, she asked, Why do you stay? He stopped, turned back. I don't know, he said honestly. Maybe because I've seen what happens when people are left alone after something like this. She didn't understand him. And worse, she wanted to. By the end of the week, she started eating again. By the end of the month, she could walk outside without feeling dizzy. By the end of the second month, she found herself watching him while he worked, studying the way he moved, the way he smiled without showing teeth, the way he made her feel something she couldn't name. And every time he touched her, accidentally or not, her body reacted in ways she didn't understand, like waking up from a long, cold sleep, like something deep inside her was stirring, something ancient, something dangerous. At first it was just warmth, a strange pull when Jonas was near. Then came the dreams, more vivid, more real. In them, she could hear voices speaking, in her own language. Not earth tongue or broken human speech, but the old tongue of the Zalari. The flow sang through her again, even if only for a moment. She woke up sweating, heart racing, and lips whispering words she hadn't spoken since before the trial. Jonas noticed. "You're different," he said one morning while handing her tea. She looked at him over the rim of the cup. "In what way?" He shrugged. "You don't flinch when I touch you anymore." She didn't answer, because it was true. Even now, his fingers brushed hers as he passed the mug. And again, that pulse ran through her body, like static, like energy waking after centuries of sleep. Later that day, something happened. They were walking through the city, heading back from the market. Rain had begun to fall, soft at first, then heavy. Thunder rolled in the distance. A group of men stepped into their path. 4 of them. One held a knife. "Hand over your credits," the leader said. Jonas didn't move, didn't speak, just shifted, slightly in front of Vera. That's when they saw her eyes, silver, glowing, not normal. The leader frowned. "What the hell?" Vera didn't know what happened next, only that something inside her snapped. A sound filled the air, not loud, not violent, but deep, like a hum in the bones. The men staggered. Their eyes went blank for a second, then they turned and ran, dropping the knife. Silence fell between them. Rain kept falling. Jonas looked at her, stunned. What was that? She couldn't answer, because she didn't know. Back home, she sat by the window, staring at the storm outside. Jonas made tea again. He didn't ask questions. Not right away. Finally, he said, "You did something out there." "I don't know what it was," she admitted. "But you felt it before." She nodded. "It's been happening. Ever since you touched me." He blinked. "Me?" She looked at him then, really looked. "I used to be able to feel the flow, the energy that connects all things. It was part of me. But here in this body I lost it, until—" She paused. "Until you." Jonas stayed quiet for a long time. Then he asked, "Is that why you've been watching me?" She didn't deny it. "I don't understand what's happening," she whispered. "I should still be blind, deaf, trapped. But every time you touch me," she trailed off. He reached out slowly, gently, and placed his hand on hers. The spark returned, stronger this time. Her breath caught. His eyes widened. "You felt it too," she said. He nodded. "I don't know how," he said. "But yeah, I think I did." Later that night, she found an old book in the garage below. It was written in broken Zalari script, half burned, half faded. She read it carefully. It spoke of an ancient bond, one that once formed between Zalari and rare humans who shared a psychic link. It called it the mate link, a connection so strong it could merge thought, senses, even life force. It was said to be extinct, forbidden, feared, because those who formed it became something new, neither fully Zalari nor fully human. Something other. She closed the book with shaking hands. Could this be happening to her, to them? The next morning she stood in front of the mirror. She hadn't looked at herself much since the change. She hated what she saw. But today something was different. A line of light shimmered along her neck, just for a second, gone before she could blink. She pressed her hand to the glass and whispered, "What are you making me become?" Footsteps behind her. Jonas leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "You okay?" he asked. She turned to face him. "No," she said honestly. "I think I'm changing." He studied her, then said, "Maybe that's not a bad thing." She almost laughed. "You don't know what you're saying." "I might," he replied. "I've seen it. You're not weaker here. You're just learning how to be strong in a new way." She didn't know what to say, so she didn't say anything. Instead, she stepped closer. He didn't move. She placed her hand on his chest. The spark returned, stronger than before. And this time, she knew what it meant. Something inside her was waking up, and it had been waiting for him all along. No knock on the door, no voice through the window, just a soft hum that only Vera could hear, deep inside her mind. It was not a sound made by human ears. It was a call. She sat up straight, eyes wide, breath caught in her throat. Jonas looked at her from across the room. "You okay?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Her fingers trembled slightly as she placed a hand over her chest. Someone was reaching out to her. Not just someone. Hers. That night, while Jonas slept, she stepped outside into the cold air. The city was quiet. Rain had stopped falling. Clouds moved slowly across the sky like ghosts. She closed her eyes and focused. The signal grew stronger, a whisper in her thoughts. "Vera." She turned sharply. There, in the shadows between two buildings, a figure stood. Tall. Cloaked. Not quite human. Her heart pounded. "Who are you?" she asked. The figure stepped forward. "I am Liren," it said. "Of the Zelari Freeborn. We have been watching. You." She stiffened. Freeborn were rebels, those who refused to serve the Empire. Some called them traitors, others, saviors. "What do you want?" "To help you," Liren said. "You are not alone in this exile. Many before you have been sentenced the same way. But none survived 10 years. Vera frowned. "Why not?" Liren's voice dropped low. "Because something happens when a Zelari bonds with a human. Something old. Something forbidden." Her pulse quickened. "The mate link," she whispered. Liren nodded. "It was erased from our records. Feared. Hunted. Because those who formed the bond became something new. Neither fully Zelari, nor fully human. And that scared both sides." Vera took a step back. "But I didn't choose this," she said. "I didn't ask for any of it." "No," Liren agreed. "But it chose you." He reached into his cloak and pulled out a small device. "This will let you leave Earth," he said. "Come with us. Learn what is happening to you. Before they find out." She stared at the device. "Before who found out?" As if reading her thoughts, Liren added, "The Empire knows more than they let on. They did not sentence you at random. This marriage was not punishment. It was an experiment." The word hit her like ice. An experiment. She thought of Jonas. Of how every time he touched her, something inside her stirred. How she had started to feel the flow again. How her body was changing. Was that why they sent her here? To test what would happen if a Zelari bonded with a human? She felt sick. "I can't just leave," she said. Liren tilted his head. "You're afraid." She didn't deny it. "I don't know what I am anymore." "You're becoming something new," Liren said. "And if you stay, they will come for you." "Who?" "The judges," he said simply. "They hunt what they do not understand." Vera swallowed hard. Then, behind her, a voice broke the silence. "Who's they?" She turned fast. Jonas stood there. In the dim light, his face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He had heard everything. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Liren spoke. "You must decide quickly," he said. If you go, you may never return. If you stay, you risk everything. Jonas looked at Vera. She looked back. And for the first time since the trial, she didn't know what to say, because she wasn't sure which choice frightened her more. Leaving him behind or staying and dragging him into something far beyond either of them. Liren waited. Then without another word, he stepped back into the shadows. The message was clear. The choice was hers. Alone now, Jonas walked closer. "You're thinking about going," he said. "I don't know," she admitted, his jaw tightened. "You think I'm holding you back?" She shook her head. "I think you're waking something inside me," she said softly. "Something I don't understand." He looked at her for a long moment. Then, quietly, he said, "Maybe that's not a bad thing." She almost smiled. But then she remembered what Liran had said. If you stay, they will come, and suddenly, she realized something else. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about him too. It started with dreams that felt real. So real, Vera could not tell where sleep ended and waking began. In them, she stood in the stars again. Not alone. Jonas was there too. Their hands touched, and when they did, something inside her opened. She saw through his eyes, felt his thoughts like echoes in her own mind. She remembered moments he had never spoken of. His childhood, his first loss, the way he used to stare at the sky and wonder if someone out there was watching him too. When she woke up, she was crying. Not from sadness, from understanding. Something between them was growing. Something deeper than love, deeper than fate, and it was changing them both. Jonas noticed the shift. At first, it was small things. She would answer before he spoke. She'd pause mid-sentence because he already knew what she was thinking. Then came the pain. It started with headaches, sharp, sudden bursts behind her eyes. Her body trembled without warning. Her skin burned like fire one moment and turned cold the next. One night, she collapsed on the floor. Jonas caught her just before she hit the ground. "Vera," he said, holding her tight. She gasped for air. "It's happening," she whispered. "What is the mate link?" she said. "It's completing." He didn't understand. Not fully. But he held her close, whispering soft words even when she couldn't hear them. Because now he could feel her too. Thoughts brushed against his mind like wind through leaves. Emotions he had never known poured into him. Her fear, her strength, her loneliness, and beneath it all, something else. Hope. They tried to hide it, but some things cannot be hidden. At the garage, Jonas dropped tools without touching them. He called customers by names he had never heard. Once he fixed an engine without looking, as if he could see the broken parts inside. Vera, meanwhile, started seeing colors no human eye should see. She could sense people before they entered a room. She moved faster, thought clearer. She wasn't just becoming human, she was becoming more, and so was he. One evening, they sat on the rooftop, wrapped in silence. Stars blinked above. "I don't know what we're turning into," she said softly. Jonas looked at her. "We're still us," he said. "Just more." She shook her head. "No, this isn't normal. The Zellari feared this bond for a reason. If the Empire finds out, they'll come for us," he finished. She nodded. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Let them." She turned to him, surprised. "You don't understand," she said. "You're not like me. You were born human. You weren't made for this." He looked at her then, not with fear, but with something stronger. "I was made for you," he said simply. Her heart pounded. He reached for her hand. The moment their fingers met, a wave of energy passed between them. Not pain, not fear. Something warm, like two pieces of a puzzle finally fitting together. The next morning, Vera looked in the mirror. A line of light shimmered along her collarbone, brighter this time. It pulsed like a heartbeat. She pressed her fingers to it and whispered, "We are becoming something new." Behind her, Jonas stepped into the room. He didn't look surprised. "You're not the only one," he said. He lifted his sleeve. On his arm, just beneath the skin, a faint glow pulsed in time with hers. They stared at each other. Then slowly, she smiled. For the first time since Earth, she felt peace. Not because everything was safe, but because she was no longer alone. Later that day, they walked through the city. People glanced at them. Some twice. Not because they looked strange, but because they felt different. As if the world could sense the shift, even if it didn't understand it. And somewhere far away, deep in space, something ancient stirred. Something that had been waiting for this moment. Waiting for them. One moment the city was alive with sound, the hum of lights, the chatter of people, the distant buzz of transport ships. The next, everything went still. Not quiet. Wrong. Vera felt it first, a cold pressure in her mind, like something vast had turned its gaze toward her. She stopped walking. Jonas noticed immediately. "What is it?" he asked, voice low. "They know," she whispered. Before he could ask who, the sky darkened, not from clouds, from something above them. A shadow passed over the city, slow and heavy. People looked up. Phones raised. Screams began. It was a ship, not human. Tall, black, shaped like a blade. Solari warcraft. Vera's breath caught. They found us. They ran. Back through the streets, past stunned crowds and emergency sirens. Jonas kept close behind her, his instincts sharp and ready. They reached the apartment just as the first warning broadcast hit every screen in the city. All citizens are ordered to remain indoors. Unknown threat detected. Do not engage. Vera slammed the door shut. Jonas locked it. Then they both stood there, breathing hard. Outside, the sky filled with more ships. Not just Solari. Earth Defense Forces scrambled to respond. Fighters launched. Radar systems activated. But no one knew what they were dealing with because this wasn't an invasion. This was a hunt. Liran arrived before nightfall. He stepped through the shadows like they belonged to him. Cloak soaked from rain, face grim. "You should have left when I offered," he said. "We didn't know it would come this fast," Vera replied. "It always does," Liran said. "The Empire fears what you've become. And now so does Earth." Jonas crossed his arms. "So what, now?" Liran handed Vera a small device. "A way-team beacon," he explained. "It will take you off-world. There's a station waiting beyond the outer belt. If you reach it, you'll be safe, for now." Vera stared at the beacon, then at Jonas. He didn't look surprised. "I'm not leaving without him," she said. Liran sighed. "I know." The first strike came at dawn. A blast tore through the building below. Windows shattered, walls cracked, smoke poured into the air. Jonas grabbed Vera's arm. "Time to go." They followed Liran out through the back, down broken fire escapes and through alleyways filled with ash and fear. Above them, ships circled like predators. Some wore Solari markings, others bore Earth's military insignia. Both sides wanted them. Neither understood them. They reached the edge of the city by midday. A hidden transport waited for them. Small, fast, built for escape. Liran stopped at the ramp. "This is where I leave you," he said. Vera looked at him. "You won't come?" "I have others to warn," he said. "You're not the only ones awakening." She nodded, then quietly she said, "Thank you." He gave a small smile. "Survive, Vera. Become what you were meant to be." And then he was gone. Inside the transport, Jonas sat near the window. Vera joined him. As the ship lifted off, she looked down at the world shrinking beneath them. Earth. Once a prison. Now something else. Something she couldn't name. Jonas touched her hand. She looked at him. "You okay?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "No," she admitted. "But I think we're about to find out what we really are." He squeezed her hand. Together. The ship broke through the atmosphere. Stars stretched before them. And far away, deeper in space, another signal pulsed. Waiting, calling. More like them were waking, and the universe was beginning to notice. It was old, far older than either Earth or Zalari records could name. Built by hands long gone, left floating in space like a forgotten dream. Vera and Jonas stood at the docking bay side by side, watching the lights flicker along the outer shell. It recognized them. As soon as they stepped inside, the walls lit, up with symbols neither of them had ever seen, but both somehow understood. Jonas looked at her. "You feel that?" She nodded. "Yes." It wasn't just language, it was welcome. They moved through the halls, drawn forward by something deeper than thought. Their connection, the mate link, had grown stronger during the journey. Now it was more than just shared feelings or thoughts. It was shared memory, shared senses, even shared time. Sometimes one would see what the other had not yet done. Sometimes they spoke without moving their lips. They were becoming something new, together. And this place knew it. A great chamber opened before them. At its center floated a sphere of light, shifting and humming with energy. It pulsed as they approached. Then it spoke. Not in sound, in thought. "You are the first of the reborn. You have awakened what was lost. Will you carry it forward?" Vera's breath caught. Jonas looked at her. "You hear that too?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "It's asking us a question." Memories flooded her mind, not just hers, but ancient ones, images of beings like the ones from her dreams. Tall, shining, not gods, not monsters, just more. They had once seeded life across the stars, guided evolution, wove intelligence into the fabric of the universe, but something had ended them, something vast, something that still watched. And now, only echoes remained. Until them, until this. "I don't know if we're ready," Vera whispered. Jonas took her hand. "We might never be," he said. "But maybe that's not the point." She looked at him. He smiled faintly. "If someone has to start again, I'd rather it be us." She felt his truth echo in her bones. And for the first time since Earth, she didn't feel afraid, just, "Ready?" She turned back to the light and answered, "Yes." The station responded instantly. Lights flared across every wall. Systems long dormant roared to life. A pulse of energy swept through the space around them, reaching far beyond the station, across the stars, to others, awakening them. Vera felt it, a ripple in the flow growing stronger. More minds joining, more hearts waking. They weren't alone anymore. There were others like them, scattered, hidden, waiting. Now they would rise. Back on Earth, the world watched in fear and awe. The sky changed. Strange lights appeared above major cities, not weapons, not threats, just presence. Whispers spread. Some called it an invasion, others a miracle. The government scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The change had already begun, in labs, in hospitals, in quiet rooms where people touched hands and felt something they couldn't explain, bonds forming, new minds waking. The mate link was no longer rare, it was returning. Inside the station, Vera and Jonas stood together, watching the stars through a massive window. "So what now?" Jonas asked. She looked at him. "Now," she said, "we teach them how to survive it." He raised an eyebrow. "Survive being more than human?" She smiled. "More than that." He tilted his head. "What then?" She reached for his hand. "We teach them how to become kind." He held her gaze, then nodded. "Sounds like a good place to start." Far away, on a small ship drifting between planets, a child stirred in her sleep. Her eyes fluttered open. They glowed softly. She whispered something in a voice not her own. A name. Not hers. Not his. But one that had been waiting to be. spoken again, and somewhere deep in space the stars blinked in response like they remembered.